I'm going to just briefly talk to the National Leadership Report. What is the National Leadership Council, the old BU executive? What have we done in the last 12 months since the last assembly? Because the assembly gives us the responsibility on carrying out the business of the assembly between assemblies. And so I just need to give some feedback what the National Office and the NLC have been doing over the last while. Now, the report is on page 11 and 12. I'm not going to read it line by line. I need to focus on certain areas. But I need to start to say that the workload for the National Office has ratcheted up significantly over the last year. We are under the cosh with the amount of work we are having to carry, both Greg, I, and one or two of our clerical staff. A lot of the National Leadership Council meetings, we've seen that workload as well. There's been a lot of deep discussion, a lot of important decisions that have been made, and we always do that with the best wishes of the church and to best serve the church as we can. And the church being you folks sitting here before us and those not with us but in churches. And our job is to serve the churches. And what we found in the last year, we are struggling to commit to some basic service levels that churches expect from us between our assemblies. We at the current moment, it's Greg and I are the only Baptist Union officers. Pastor Angelo is working on an interim basis with the national, with the BCAM Net, the ministry board, missions board, and then we have Mpo and Jenny. And basically, we have a very small staff that we work with. And we've recognized we cannot continue like this. And so a couple of the motions that will come forward later, and I'll mention them in a moment, are to address that. We need to staff up, and we need to staff up pretty quickly. Otherwise, you as a church suffers when you ask for basic things that we can do for you. We are pleased to say that the colleges are up and running well. They are, Godfrey at the Cape Town Baptist Seminary He's found his feet certainly over the last few years and continuing. Pastor Darryl Soul, Dr. Darryl Soul is now in the position of principal at BTC, and even Mark has just joined as registrar there. So fairly new staff over there in BTC, and the colleges are under control in terms of going forward. But the NLC, the national body, the board of officers, the operational leaders, is where we need to focus at the moment to offer a better service to our churches. So we'll talk about that just now. We met 3 times in the year as the NLC, and each time we've had to deal with some weighty matters, and some of those will come out in the motions. But we recognize also the new working relationship we have with what we call our board of governors. And we are very privileged this morning to have 4 of our 5 Board of Governors with us. And I'll just take a moment that you know who the Board of Governors are. I'd just like them to stand. Yolanda, I see you in front, if you can stand. Gary Tamlin, there at the back. Gary, if you can stand. Where is Cliff? Is he not here? Is he outside? Is he available? And is Stephen Paddy here? Mr. Stephen Paddy, has he arrived yet? Not yet. He's on his way from the airport, I think. But the Board of Governors, thank you guys, can be seated. The Board of Governors have been tremendously helpful to us as a NLC over the past year. They've guided us through some choppy waters. They are helping us prepare a new vision for the Baptist Union. We've had to deal with a lot of the structural changes. In 2018, the new structure was voted in. And to bring that structure into place is not a simple process. And there's legalities attached to it, there's constitutional changes that we have to do, and so a lot of the motions we'll talk about in a minute are attached to these things. We also have placed emphasis on 2 areas that make our hearts as Baptists tick. One is missions, and you'll see tomorrow morning the BCAM Net, or that's what the missions department now call themselves, will be having the whole morning to talk about the gospel and how to best get the gospel out into our country and further afield. And so we're putting the gospel, the BCAM Net, instead of tacked onto an evening, we're putting it in the heart of the assembly. Because the gospel is the heart of what we are doing. The good news of Jesus Christ is what we are called to take out and to be his witnesses and to testify to the goodness of Christ and his salvation. And so we have to keep the gospel at the center of all things in the Baptist Union. The other thing that we are working hard at, and we are now in the initial throes of bringing into place, is a new national youth ministry. I think we have sorely missed that ministry over the last 2 decades, and we are now looking at bringing that back into place. We don't yet know how it will look. Youth have changed. The country has changed. The way people come to church have changed. And so it is a challenging time. You will hear Mo and Dan Riddell talk about summer camp and the youth ministry later on in this assembly. And when you do, I really want to encourage you to come through. I think it is on Wednesday evening, to come through and listen to what they've got to say, and assist them. Because if we don't get our youth behind us and into our churches, we are going to struggle into the future. We need to keep passing on to the generation coming the good news of Jesus Christ. The pastoral, there's 2 positions that we need to look at filling this year. One of them is the national network developer. We are now a network based on a network structure, and as we move in the new structure towards that, we need someone to coordinate the work of the different regions, the different departments, the colleges, etc., the women's department. We need someone to coordinate that, and also what we call the informal networks, where there are groupings of folk around theological leanings or geographical leanings or mission work. There are informal structures that are formed, and we're going to try and formalize, not formalize, but bring them in under a network so that we ensure that there's accountability and also a Baptistic practice through all those things. And so the national network developer is a vital place, a position that needs to come in over the next year. The other one is the pastoral care coordinator. I don't know if that title might change as we go forward, but you folk already are paying your 750 Rand per pastor. That includes all people on our fully accredited list, our probation list, our student lists, are to pay for that position. That's what that money is there for. It is kept in a separate account. It's not mixed into the Baptist Union's coffers. It is kept there to keep the pastoral support team and that person, when he's employed, in place. Now, I want to encourage you guys, less than half the pastors have paid that fee. Now, if you're asking us and you have agreed as an assembly to want that new structure that includes a pastoral care coordinator, you need to come to the party with the 750 Rand per year that you pay. Please, I want to ask you, when you get back to your churches, next year it becomes, from this assembly, it becomes compulsory. We haven't made it compulsory the last 2 years, but from this year on, it becomes a compulsory fee. All right, so please, folk, I don't want to be the guy with the big stick and chase after people with money. Let it come from your heart and pay the fees coming up. Now, to talk about the budget, if we employ people, of course, it puts pressure on our budget. We have, for the last 3 years, since 2020, have balanced the budget quite comfortably. But as we begin to staff up, of course, the budget comes under pressure. And so we are looking at the moment that we might be facing a deficit budget next year. However, it depends on church giving. Folk, I'm still outstanding 1.2 million Rand in membership fees as we sit here today. That is a significant amount of money. And a budget deficit will probably come in at about 200,000 to 300,000. So you understand, if churches just pay their membership fees, we will balance this budget quite easily. So I'm encouraging you, if you haven't paid your membership fees, I know Angelo, as part of the BU Foundation, follows up on those fees with you. But we shouldn't have to follow up. The church's integrity should be as such that you pay them because it is an obligation as being part of the Baptist Union. So I really want to encourage you to pay your membership fees. And if you are paying membership fees and you have a little more, we encourage voluntary giving as well, so that we can staff the structures and serve you folk better. And that's the bottom line. So that when you phone me with a query or you phone me with an issue, I can help you where I can help you from the national office. So I want you just to think about those things. Now I want to bring talk about the 5 motions that are coming to the floor. And the background is all in what I've just spoken about. The first motion we're going to be bringing later today will be motion 1. The motions are all in your books. All right, please take time. You should have read them already in preparation for the assembly, but you will find them, if I'm trying to take it this way, they start on page 18 onward. You will find, don't read them now, but the 5 motions are all there. Now I want to just explain the motivation of the NLC to bring these motions to the floor. We will give time for discussion to all these motions later on. They will be broken into 2 voting blocks and then another vote on Thursday afternoon. The first one is a very generic motion. It's saying, and it's brought by the Board of Governors to us, and we, on behalf of the Board of Governors, are bringing the motion that we have to make constitutional changes. The Constitution doesn't match our new structure 100%, so we have to bring the Constitution and the new structure in together. So we have to give notice of constitutional changes a year ahead, and that's what we're doing. That's all that motion does. It brings notice that we will be bringing constitutional changes that need to be brought in at the next assembly to bring our constitution in line with our new structure. And all those changes will be sent to you as churches throughout next year before the assembly. The second motion is also quite straightforward. We just have to bring our Board of Trustees up to full level. We're not servicing, we're battling to service churches around property matters because we don't have the full Board of Trustees in place. So we need to bring that up. So there are 3 extra trustees coming on. Their names are in the motion. I'm not going to go into detail, but I would like you, if you please would, accept those. That will make me serve you a little bit easier if the trustees are all in place when it comes to property matters. The third one is a little bit more difficult, and I just need to explain the motion a little bit more to you. To employ an officer of the union or an operational leader. Now, the operational leaders, there are 5. There is Greg as the national ministry leader, myself as the administrator. There is the national outreach developer. Angelo is interim at the moment. Then there's the pastoral support position and the national network developer. Those are, in a sense, your directors of the company, if I may use layman's terms or secular terms. To employ that at the moment is a very unwieldy process in the Constitution. You have to have a search committee, the name needs to be brought to the Assembly needs to vote on that name. Now the problem is, if we cannot get it to the Assembly on time, or if the Assembly rejects a name, we have to go through another year of search. Any business cannot run when we have to wait a year to 2 to fill a position. We cannot serve you as churches waiting that length of time. So we are going to ask the Assembly through this motion to give us permission to fill the next 2 positions at least, which is the National Network Developer and the Pastoral Support Coordinator, via the NLC between these 2 assemblies. And so that's what that motion is about. We need your permission because we'll be moving away from the Constitution in terms of having to bring the names to the next assembly. Otherwise, we're going to wait another year for those names to come in, which is, we cannot carry on at the low levels of staffing that we've got at the moment. So you need to give us permission as an assembly to do that, and that's what that motion's about. Motion 4 will be voted on Thursday, and that is just some changes to the lay ministers' regulations that will be explained to you on Wednesday. Patricia will explain, as the chairman of the Pastoral Support Committee, will bring that motion. That is just a number of delicate changes in terms of grammar, etc., that needs to be brought, and length of terms that need to be changed. The last one is the one that we gave you the amended motion yesterday, was for a BU church exit policy. Now, I know there's been a lot of debate over the last few months around this one, and I just need to share my heart, and that's what I really want to just share my heart, why the NLC has brought this. First of all, I want to say there is no maliciousness in any of this. I've heard people saying that the BU wants to take out churches. No, we don't want to take anyone's churches. Let's get that out of the way, guys. I speak on behalf of the NLC. We do not want to take anybody's church property away. We cannot, in actual fact, because it is an autonomous church. The only thing that we want to do is, if there is property that is in our name that the church has and then leaves the Baptist Union, then we have to, obviously that is our property. I mean, churches cannot take what is in our name. We have the title deeds to. That is a different thing. However, and if the church is owing any monies at that point where they want to leave and they have borrowed from our trust funds, we expect them to pay that money back before they leave. Otherwise, why should they pay? I mean, that is just plain business sense, and it's the same type of thing that will operate in any organization. What we were concerned about was 2 things. One, churches leave without telling us. And that is a concern. I have a big issue with that. We are gentlemen in Christ and gentle ladies in Christ. Engage with us. Tell us. If you're unhappy with us, all I'm saying, we're not going to stop you leaving. You've got the autonomous decision in your church. If you decide to leave the Baptist, you have the full right. You join voluntarily. You can leave voluntarily. So we are not stopping anyone from leaving. You are here because you want to be here. And we hope that we create a union that you want to bond with and be with and have fraternity with and fellowship with. And so what we are saying is, if you've got issues with us, whether it's theological or structural or financial. There are issues out there that then talk to us. And so this BU exit policy is trying to put into place an engagement policy if you want to leave, so that we can talk to churches, come to us, say you want to leave, that we can engage with the leadership. There might be misunderstandings, and if it's misunderstandings, we can actually solve those misunderstandings just by talking. So we need to, that is really the heart behind this new motion, that we talk to one another before we just leave. I can tell you of a number of churches that have just drifted away. Now, again, we send them an invoice, for example, and we get a little SMS back saying we don't feel we belong to the Baptist Union, we don't want to belong to the Baptist Union anymore. There's never been paperwork, we don't know what the status of the property is, and so we need to check that. It's our responsibility as an NLC to check that, meet with the church, make sure that the church is receiving from their pastors and leadership an accurate portrayal of where the Baptist Union is. That's the first thing. The second thing we need to check, are there properties that belong to us or to the Baptist Union? To the church or to the Baptist Union. And so we need to do our work, in other words, but we cannot do our work to protect churches and the Baptist Union unless we can talk to the churches that want to leave. Do you understand where we're coming from in terms of this? We will enter into debate. After lunch, there will be a time of debate for this, because I know there is a lot of debate around this. We have taken the one property clause out because it became contentious, but I do believe we need to stick with the fact that you need to engage with us before you just walk away. And that's the heart of that motion. I will leave it there. I'm not going to take it any further. I just want to close by saying, for us as a NLC folk, it's not an easy job. We have got to make decisions sometimes that are hard. We don't always know all the background. But we look to the Lord, and if you can continue to pray for us as a NLC, you give us the responsibility as an assembly to carry on with the business of the union. Please support us in prayer, support us with your wisdom, support us with phone calls, be engaged with us between the assemblies. We would really appreciate it. James 3:17 tells us, but the wisdom from above is first pure. And that's what we seek. The wisdom from above is first pure, peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And that's what we hope to be as an NLC. Pure, peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And that is our heart as an NLC as we serve you.